In 1945, on Christmas Eve, a small house in West Virginia caught fire just after midnight. Inside were 9 children, but when the flames were finally put out, only 4 were found safe outside. The other 5 had vanished. Investigators expected to find bones, ashes, or even the faintest trace of remains, but there was nothing. Not a single sign that those children had burned in the fire. Their parents swore they had seen someone watching the house in the days before. Strange phone calls had come that very evening. And in the years that followed, letters and mysterious sightings suggested the children might still be alive. But if they survived, where did they go? And if they didn't, how could an entire group of children disappear without leaving behind a single clue? This was not just a fire. It became one of the strangest mysteries in American history. On Christmas Eve, the Sodder family went to bed after a night of celebration. But just after midnight, flames ripped through their home. In panic, George and Jenny managed to rush 4 of their 9 children outside. The other 5 were trapped upstairs. George tried to reach them, but the staircase was already on fire. He ran outside to grab the family ladder to climb through the window. But the ladder was gone. He tried starting his trucks to drive them close to the house. Both trucks refused to start, even though they had worked fine earlier that day. By the time the fire burned out, the home was nothing but ashes. Investigators searched through the remains, expecting bones, teeth, something, but they found nothing. Experts later confirmed that a fire that short could never completely destroy human bodies. So where did the children go? Strange details made the mystery even darker. The family's phone line had been cut. A witness claimed to see a man throwing something on the roof before the fire began. Others swore they saw the children alive afterwards. One woman said she saw them inside a passing car. Another thought she spotted them at a hotel. But no lead was ever proven. Authorities insisted the children died in the fire, but without bodies, the Sodders never accepted that. For years they searched, chasing every clue, even receiving a photograph of a man who looked like their missing son. Still no clear answers ever came. How could 5 children vanish in minutes from a burning house without leaving behind a single trace? Were they kidnapped before the fire? Was the fire set to cover up a crime? Almost 80 years later, the Sodder fire remains one of the strangest and most heartbreaking mysteries America has ever seen. In 2007, a family holiday in Portugal turned into a nightmare that still haunts investigators today. Late at night, the McCann parents checked on their 3 children, all sleeping peacefully inside the apartment. But less than an hour later, when they returned, the scene had completely changed. The bedroom door was wide open, the window was raised, the shutters were unlocked, and 3-year-old Madeline was gone. The room showed no signs of struggle. Her soft toy was still on the bed, her blanket neatly pushed aside. It looked as if she had simply vanished into the night. Police searched the resort inch by inch. Dogs were brought in and boarders were alerted within hours. Yet there was nothing. Not a sound, not a trace. How could a child disappear from a room in the middle of a busy resort, with her parents only steps away? The McCann family was on vacation in Praia da Luz, Portugal. On the night of May 3rd, Kate and Jerry McCann tucked their 3 children into bed and went just a short distance away for dinner with friends. Everything seemed normal. But when Kate returned around 10 p.m. to check on them, the scene inside the apartment was anything but normal. The bedroom door was standing wide open. The window was raised. The shutters were unlocked. 2 of the children were still asleep in their beds, but 3-year-old Madeline was gone. Her blanket lay neatly folded, her stuffed toy untouched, and there were no signs of a struggle. It was as if she had simply disappeared into thin air. Police rushed to the resort, but from the very first hour, confusion surrounded the case. Officers searched the apartment with flashlights, combed the nearby streets, and even questioned staff and tourists. Sniffer dogs were brought in, but they picked up nothing conclusive. The resort was still full of people, yet no one had seen a thing. Roadblocks were set up. Cars leaving the town were stopped and checked. Helicopters scanned the coastline. Search teams spread into the hills and beaches nearby. Still no trace of the little girl. Not a single footprint, not a single clue. Days turned into weeks, and international agencies joined the hunt. Interpol, Scotland Yard, and Portuguese police compared leads, interviewed witnesses, and rechecked every piece of evidence. But every path led to a dead end. The open window suggested a break-in, yet no fingerprints, no fibers, no forced entry were ever confirmed. How could a child vanish from a locked apartment, with her siblings asleep just feet away and her parents dining only meters from the door? Was it a carefully planned abduction, or something far more complex? Even after one of the largest investigations in modern history, the disappearance of Madeleine McCann remains one of the most haunting mysteries ever recorded. In 1957, on a cold February afternoon in Philadelphia, a hunter was checking his traps when he spotted a cardboard box lying in the brush. Curious, he lifted the lid and froze. Inside was the body of a little boy, no older than 4. His hair had been freshly cut, his body carefully cleaned, and he was wrapped in a thin blanket. But there were no signs of who he was or where he had come from. Police rushed to the scene. They photographed every inch of the box, the blanket, the boy's wounds. Fingerprints were taken. Missing child reports were checked across the country, yet no match was ever found. The child had no name, no family, and no answers. Who was this boy? Why was he placed in a box and left to rot in the woods? And how could a child vanish from the world without anyone ever claiming him? Philadelphia was gripped by a chilling mystery that has never been solved. On a freezing February afternoon, a young man walking through a wooded area spotted a large cardboard box discarded near the road. At first, he thought it was nothing. But when curiosity made him lift the lid, what he saw inside changed everything. Wrapped in a thin plaid blanket was the body of a little boy just 4 to 6 years old. Detectives believed this would be a simple case: match the boy to a missing child report and find the family. But when they checked records across Philadelphia, then across the entire country, nothing matched. No one had reported a missing boy fitting his description. It was as if he had never existed. Investigators followed every lead. They tracked the blanket, the box, even the boy's haircut. They canvassed orphanages, hospitals, and schools. Posters of his face went up across the city, and his photo appeared in newspapers nationwide. Still not a single person came forward to claim him. Days turned into weeks, and the case grew darker. Why was this boy abandoned in a box? Who had he cared enough to wash and groom him, only to leave his body in the woods? The child became known only as America's unknown boy. And despite decades of investigation, his true identity remained hidden. In 2006, a medical student named Brian Schaffer walked into a busy bar in Columbus, Ohio, to celebrate the start of spring break. Security cameras caught him laughing, talking, and drinking with friends. But as the night wore on and the bar began to close, Brian seemed to vanish. The last footage shows him standing near the entrance, seconds before he should have walked out. But he never did. Dozens of cameras covered the exits, the stairways, the doors, yet not a single one captured him leaving. Police searched the bar from top to bottom, tearing apart walls, checking crawl spaces, even the rooftop. There was no sign of him. Outside, cars were checked, rivers were dragged, and neighborhoods canvassed. Still nothing. How can a man step into a bar filled with people, covered by cameras, and simply disappear without ever being seen again? Brian Schaffer was a medical student with a bright future ahead. One Friday night, he headed to a popular bar in Columbus with friends to relax. Cameras outside captured him arriving, smiling and walking in with ease. Inside, he was seen ordering drinks, chatting with women, and moving between the bar and the dance floor. Nothing seemed unusual, but as the night drew to a close and people began to leave, something strange happened. Cameras positioned at every exit should have shown Brian leaving. Instead, they showed nothing. He appeared near the entrance at one point, then he was gone. No footage of him walking out, no glimpse of him slipping away. He simply vanished even though the bar was packed and the exits fully covered by surveillance. Police began an exhaustive search. They emptied the bar, combing through storage rooms, basements, crawl spaces, even the rooftop. Nothing. Dogs were brought in but picked up no trail. Investigators checked security footage frame by frame, convinced they must have missed him, but every customer who entered was later seen leaving. Every single one, except Brian. The search spread to the surrounding streets, parking lots, and nearby rivers. Flyers plastered the city. Friends and family begged for answers. Yet there were no signs of foul play, no clues of escape, and no trace of struggle. It was as if he had stepped into the bar and never stepped back out. How could a young man vanish from a building under constant surveillance, surrounded by people, without leaving a single trace? To this day, Brian Schaffer's disappearance remains one of the most baffling mysteries investigators have ever faced.